On. Welcome to Everything Alright, the literary talk. My guest today is Leonora Nattrass, whose new novel Blue Water is out now, and it's simply fantastic. Welcome, Leonora.
Hello, hi, thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for coming to us. Thank you for being here. Please tell us a little bit more about Blue Water.
Okay, so Blue Water is a murder mystery. It's a follow-up to Black Drop, which was published last year, which was a story of a young Foreign Office clerk who spent 10 years in the attic as a kind of dog's body and then suddenly finds himself at the centre of, political affairs. And at the end of Black Drop, he leaves Whitehall. I won't say why. And but during the course of his work at Whitehall, he's been involved in the negotiation of a treaty with an envoy from America who's trying to kind of sort out the overhanging problems from the end of the American civil Revolutionary War. I should say that Black Drop set in 1794 and Blue Water's set in 1795. So at the end of Black Drop, he leaves Whitehall and he goes on a ship to America with the treaty that he's helped to negotiate. And unfortunately, the treaty disappears. And the Blue Water follows the investigation that Laurence, my main character, undertakes to find the treaty in the hopes of kind of restoring his reputation in Whitehall, getting his job back. And of course, murders and mayhem ensue.
When reading both Black Drop and Blue Water, it struck me that both novels are very ambitious and very different from, if there is a usual historical fiction, they certainly stand out. So what inspired you to write them? Or to write, let's concentrate on Blue Water.
Okay. Well, I was an academic in a former life, and I did a PhD on the political writing of this period. So when I started to write Black Drop, I that was the kind of route I went down, which was perhaps why it's a little bit different. And Blue Water is also influenced by my love of Patrick O'Brian and all the other naval fiction like Hornblower, Nicholas Montserrat's Second World War naval fiction. So I carried on the kind of interest in politics and the 18th century from Black Drop, but then I also had the chance, because it was set at sea, to pay a bit of homage to all this great tradition of naval fiction that I also love.
So tell us about your way into writing, if you say you used to be an academic.
Okay, well, I always wanted to write. Writing was always the thing I wanted to do ever since I was very small. But and I did creative writing as part of my degree way back in the 80s, when creative writing wasn't really a usual thing to do at university, but my degree did have a strand of it. But I sort of felt at the time I really didn't know enough about the publishing world and commercial fiction. I was very much stuck in the classics, and I also felt that I didn't really have anything burning to say at that point. So in the end, I followed a more academic route, and I went on and did an MA and a PhD, and then taught for about 10 years at Nottingham Trent University. But after 10 years or so, we decided to run away to Cornwall. So that was the end of my academic career. And and at that point, I was older, and my kids were a bit, they were old enough not to need me all the time. So I started writing again at that point, and it took me quite a long time. I had lots of false starts, wrote lots of things that never saw the light of day. But my husband eventually said to me, "Why don't you actually write about this historical period that you know about, and that's something a bit different?" And so I did that, and then eventually, after many drafts, I came up with something that finally got
Yes.
published.
It is the million words you have to write before your first word gets published. It
Absolutely.
is. It is so true. Tell us how you got an agent. That's always the big question of any sort of writer in the making.
I mean, I think the great problem for me was that I wasn't writing the sort of thing anyone wanted, and I couldn't really understand why. I kept sending, in the days before I came to write the historical fiction, when I was writing my earlier things, I just kept sending things off into the ether, and getting very little feedback, because you know what it's like with when you send things to agents. A lot of the time they don't reply if they're not interested, because of the sheer volume of stuff that they get. So I was kind of puzzled for ages. And then I went to the Writers' Festival at Winchester, and I got a one-to-one with a couple of agents who kind of made me realize that it wasn't my writing necessarily that was the problem. It was just the kind of what I was presenting, really. So then I sort of followed the kind of more thrillerish murder mystery elements in Black Drop, and I got one agent who was interested, and he very kindly helped let me do a couple of rewrites, for him, because he could see that there was something in it, but it just wasn't, coming together. And after a couple of revise and resubmits, I got the agent, and he went on to get me the publisher. So that was great.
That is fantastic. It's a great feeling when somebody believes in your writing.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
And especially because you do feel like such a small fish in such an enormous ocean.
Yes, it's so hard to get their attention because they're so swamped with so many
Mm.
things. So it's
Yeah.
it's a fantastic compliment. So I suppose your research is actually not so hard because you have the world in your head through your academic work already. So is it more the plotting that you sort of concentrate on when you write your novels?
Yes, I think so. I mean, I spent so long. I mean, the actual sort of what people ate, what they wore, when they ate, what they ate, all of that. I had to research because that I hadn't really gone into that kind of level of domestic detail when I was doing my academic stuff. But I knew I was very versed with the kind of world and the attitudes and the language and all of that, so that was easy. And then plotting has been the real challenge for me, and it's something that I think I'm just, well, every time I write a new book I think, oh, I think I've got it now, and then I realize I've got to write yet another 200,000 words to get the 80 or 90 that works, so it's very much trial and error. But yeah, plotting is the challenge for me, really.
No, but you're doing well. I'm immensely drawn into Blue Water, and I'm very curious how it continues. So, so no spoilers. What were the hardest part to write? Was it hard to imagine being a man? Because Laurence Jago is a fantastically flawed hero. Did you find that hard?
Not really, because uh I sort of feel in a way that Lawrence, who's a kind of he's a farmer's son who's sort of been over promoted in his, his father's been ambitious for him, and he's been sent to London, worked in a legal chamber as a clerk, and then got into Whitehall. So he doesn't belong to the world of, the elite, really, that he's kind of moving in. So I kind of feel like, in a way, women's lives were so different then that, in a way, Lawrence is almost more akin to, you know, what I can imagine as a woman now, perhaps, than women's lives then, which were so constrained and so completely different to ours.
Who inspires your writing apart from Patrick O'Brien?
Oh, well, I love CJ in terms of historical crime. I love CJ Sampson, and I love the kindness and warmth of the Cadfael stories. I love Antonia Hodgson's books, The Devil of the Marshalsea. She wrote 3 or 4 books about Thomas Hawkins, her hero, which have been really inspiring. So, but mainly, I suppose, because I'd read nothing but classic literature, and nothing post 1900 for so many years, that I suppose all those kind of old books are really the my way into writing and reading and things. So I suppose that more than anything.
And you mentioned that you live in Cornwall. So what does a writing day look like? Very wild.
It's today. I get up, and we have we have a little small holding. So I go out, and my first thing before I even have coffee or breakfast is I go out and do all the animals, see to all the animals. We've got turkeys and hens and ducks and geese and sheep. So I go out and make sure they're all right. And then I drink coffee and read the papers for far too long. And then I spend probably about the whole afternoon really writing every day, more or less. Even weekends, I'm obsessed. And
Is that,
and
yeah,
then I just kind of collapse in the evening. So
is that your top tip for Nasty novelist? Really get that bum on that seat and just write, write, write?
I think you've got to be driven. You've got to really care about it more than anything else, practically, to really have the energy to write those million words that you talked about.
Yeah. And
To
to
get
live through the ups and downs that will present itself because
Yes, yes,
every writing
yeah,
career has those.
yes, absolutely, yes. And
So
it never ends. You're always worrying about. I'm writing the third Laurence book now, but you're always worrying that it's not going to work, or that will I be able to do it again, all that kind of thing. So it never really ends, that kind of ups and downs, I think.
Yeah, no, I mean the publishing world is no charity. You do have to deliver. So you mentioned it already. What is next for you? Does Laurence stay on the ship, or does he go? Does he go sort of on dry land?
He's on dry land, and I'm not going to say too much yet, but he's I've just finished the first draft of the third book, the
Well
first
done.
draft that's presentable to anybody else, and it's involved the recreation of a town in all its details. So I've had immense fun going through all the kind of census and archives, trying to work out who lived where and the names of all the real ordinary people that lived in the town and where the shops were and everything. So I've had an absolute ball doing that. It's been brilliant. But I won't say too much, just in case it jinxes it.
No, absolutely. I understand that. And we've already come to the end of our conversation and the five faves. So, Leonora, very, very quickly, what's your favorite movie? Just one.
Apocalypse Now.
Wow. What's your favorite book?
Too many to mention, but I've just read. I'm a bit behind the times, but I've just read The Secret History by Donna Tartt that I thought was absolutely extraordinary.
It's unforgettable. Yeah. What's your favorite music? Do you have a score or a song?
I'm going to see Bob Dylan this weekend, so he's my
lucky,
hero.
lucky you. A favorite food?
Yogurt at the moment because I'm making my own.
Can I actually order a turkey for Christmas? Let's discuss that afterwards. And the favorite travel destination?
Well, I hate traveling. I'm a real home bird, so I loved Cornwall so much we had to move here, so I didn't have to travel to it anymore.
That's a brilliant answer. So thanks for listening and watching Everything All Right. My guest today was Leonora Nattrass, and we talked about her current book, Blue Water. Order it online, or better still, get it at your local independent bookstore. I am Ellen Alpsten. Subscribe to Everything All Right and listen and watch us next week. Thanks so much, Leonora.
Thank you.
Okay, fantastic. Bye. All the best.